All right, so we're going to get started. Just Cheryl did a great job introducing all of us and our roles. We are a really cohesive team. Really fortunate to work with outstanding people. I brought you all the top minds in Akron Public Schools today to share a little bit about this middle school transformation. A little bit about Akron, just so you have some context. Akron is an urban school district situated on about 62 square miles. You can get anywhere in Akron in 15 minutes, even with traffic. Let me just say that it's a pretty accessible city. We have about 200,000 people. At one point in time, we were known as the rubber capital of the world, right? And we were known for making tires, a huge tire industry in Akron. We are now more world renowned for the research on polymers and polymer development. Akron Public Schools serves about 21,000 students, and I did add some claim to fames on there so you know a little bit about Akron. The Soapbox Derby is housed here in our city. We are known for the Black Keys as a music, if you're following a music enthusiast, Judy Resnick, and then of course LeBron James. So that's a little bit about our community, so you have some context. Over the next hour, we want to make sure that we share with you a little bit about the historical context of this community transformation we call College and Career Academies of Akron. As the director of College and Career Academies, I'm going to provide that with you so you see where we started in high school and how we determined that it was really necessary to build that pipeline much earlier. Larry Johnson is our executive principal and lead on the middle school transformation. He's going to share with you that innovative design of how we really built the middle school experience for our students. And then Beth, who's been in College and Career Academies for over the last 5 years, she's going to talk about all of the structures and systems that had to be built to sustain a community transformation. And I think that's really important. And I think Cheryl mentioned that early on. Absolutely want to transform that student experience while they're in middle school. But really the intent is to transform our community and really make sure that we're producing students out of the Akron Public Schools that meet the needs of our community, both from a college readiness and a career readiness standpoint. And then lastly, Darlene's going to talk about how we are really connecting our nonprofit partners in the community to our middle school experience. So it should be an engaging 45-50-minute session, and we're going to take time at different points for you all to ask questions. You can drop your questions in the chat whenever they come up, and then we'll stop at deliberate points to dig into some of those questions. So everybody with me? All right, let's get started. History of the College and Career Academies. As Cheryl mentioned, we are a proud member of the Ford NGL family. For those that aren't familiar with Ford Next Generation Learning, it is a network of communities that really are preparing students for the future workforce by really digging into what the students are interested and passionate about and giving them opportunities to learn from experts within our community. We use this Ford NGL framework as the foundation for transformation. We are looking at making sure that we use all three strands that you see in front of you. The blue strand, we're on transforming the student learning experience, making sure we're thoughtful and intentional in that design, building the systems and structures to sustain that and to really change those instructional practices within the classroom as well as in the community. And then building a really strong foundation for business and community engagement, because we know that we can't do it alone, right? We know that it takes a village, and we want to make sure that we're including all of our business partners in that work. So why academies? Again, I'm giving you the historical context. When we started down this road to really transform into that academy model, it really started because we wanted more for our students, right? We had a pretty dismal graduation rate at about 75%. Our gap closure indicators were low. We have a low student engagement rate, right? Our kids were kind of disinterested in what we were doing. And we knew we had to do better by our students. I always talk about the fact that when students leave here with a high school diploma, are they prepared to do what? What are their next steps after high school? And we knew that that was lacking and we needed more for our kids. And ultimately, it's making sure that we graduate students with not only a high school diploma, but a plan for their future. So that's why Akron decided to move to this academy model. We also know that the world of work has changed dramatically, right? We know that in 1973, especially in Akron, about 72% of jobs in our area needed a high school diploma or less, right? We talk about Akron being the rubber capital of the world. Graduates in 1973 could leave our high schools, go straight to the factory and have a sustainable wage and could raise their family on that income. Move to 2020, which is now post-dated, we only had about 36% of jobs in our area that required a high school degree or less. So the labor market in our area was telling us that, listen, the high school diploma is not enough, right? We have to do more to make sure our students are ready to enter the world of work, college, or military after high school. And ultimately, we wanted to make sure our students had a competitive advantage, right? They are going against all graduates in this area for college acceptance, college scholarships, opportunities for work. We wanted to make sure that our students had that competitive advantage for whatever they chose to do after high school. The other unique piece that sometimes isn't always clear to communities who don't live in that academy world is that we are wall-to-wall academies, which means 100% of our students in high school are considered a career technical education student. They all take a course in 9th grade and are part of our freshman academy where they explore careers and they explore the pathways offered at their high school. And at the end of 9th grade, they select a pathway to explore for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So they're all in workforce development pathways. A technical question that many people ask is, can students change pathways if they pick the wrong one? We say absolutely. At the end of 10th grade, they can make that change because we can catch them up in 11th and 12th grade. But for those that are working in career technical education, it's really important to know that 100% of our students are in a workforce development pathway. So this is just a visualization of our high schools and the academies that we offer. So you see that our comprehensive high school names are listed at the top. All of our students are in that one-year freshman academy, and then they are in that small learning community for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, where they take a 4-course sequence in the pathway that they're most interested in. One of the things that we designed that was really important for high schools was to have every high school have a variety of options so kids were exploring careers. We didn't want any type of any limiting ability for our students thinking that, hey, if I wanted IT, I have to go to a whole nother school. Most of our high schools offer an IT pathway. Most of our high schools offer a healthcare pathway, as well as some type of hard trades, because that's the biggest industries in our community. The pathways were designed by our workforce needs, our parent input, and our student input. So we wanted to make sure you saw that as a foundation point of understanding where we got to the need to get kids ready prior to entering high school. We do have guaranteed experiences for every student, regardless of any challenges they have. All of our students in 9th grade attend a career expo where they learn about entry-level, mid-level, and professional level careers. They all take a college visit because we want to make sure that they see college as an option for them. Many of our kids hadn't been on a college campus ever, so it was great to get them their feet in the college tour and see what's available to them. In 10th grade, they take an industry field trip where they learn more about the career paths that they're kind of exploring. And then 11th grade is a job shadow. And then in 12th grade, we actually offer what we call Dream Day, which is it's a conference style session for our seniors where they pick what we call their E. Our students have to pick whether their plan is to enroll after high school in a college or post-secondary organization and get employed in a full-time job or enlist in the military. And so that conference style day is designed for them to take different sessions to get them ready for their next steps in life. And then we also offer work-based learning hours and more like an internship, dedicated time to go deeper in their career preparation. Those are our guaranteed experiences. But ultimately, our district really set out to make sure that this was always designed to be a pre-K through 12th grade transformation. We started in high school. Obviously, this has kind of been the heavy lift over the last 3 or 4 years to build the infrastructure to sustain this for our high school students. Our community has been at the table from the inception. But we knew that there was more of a runway needed to get our kids ready for that high school experience so they take full benefit of what's available to them. So next phase of the work was really looking at middle school. What does middle school look like to get students ready to take full advantage of that high school experience? And Larry's going to share a little bit about that with you shortly. And at the same time, we are now looking at what happens in elementary so that our students hit middle school ready to take advantage of everything offered in middle school. Our elementary team actually developed their own portrait of an elementary scholar to line up with the secondary portrait of a graduate. So you see on the screen how there's alignment in this college and career academy framework. And so that our students are thinking early and often about what their next steps are in life. This Ford framework guides everything that we've done over the last 5 years. Elementary or middle or high school, we always come back to these 3 strands that are aligned the work that we're doing and move our work forward. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that this has kind of been a fundamental piece of this transformation for us. Larry, I'm going to turn it over to you for the middle school component.
Well, good afternoon. I have known Mrs. Teka for a very, very long time. And I always start by saying something like, I work for these ladies on the screen. They hate it, but it's the truth, right? It's a pleasure to be on this team. I'm going to share with you a little bit about the implementation for middle school, how we got here, what are some steps that we're doing with middle school. But it's important to revisit that frame. Mrs. Teka, can you go back to that slide before? One more. Those 3 strands are significant when we talk about the work. I'm going to make reference to those because not only do they help manage the work, but they organize everything that we do. So when you're thinking about the initiatives, when we're thinking about the strategies, as we're placing those strategies for this implementation or for this transformation, each of those strategies that we input, they have to fit within these strands. If they don't fit, then they're not part of the transformation. So it's just, those are the things when you're thinking about this transformation and this Ford NGL framework, transforming the student experience, transforming the culture around the community, and transforming teaching and learning are all very, very, very significant parts of our work. I'm sorry, you can go ahead and go to the next 2. So why are we taking this down to middle school? Mrs. Teka is and has been extremely passionate about students being prepared to design their destiny. She used to say that to me all the time when I first started. How are we going to make sure that students are prepared to design their destiny? This transformation allows us to put a lot of things in place to allow for students to do just that, to build up the skills so that they're able to make informed decisions about where they're going to go to high school. So if they know that there's all of these pathways in high school, all these opportunities across the district, we want them to make the most informed decisions so that their life or their destiny or their career plans are based on choices and not consequences when they get to high school, like, okay, I just chose this high school, I guess I have to do this. The idea is that students drive their destiny based on the things that they're passionate about. We'll go to the next. When we think about the middle school transformation, when you look at our portrait of a graduate, we don't have a portrait of a middle school scholar or student. Excuse me. What we use is this portrait of a graduate. So we broke the transformation down into 3 levels. 6th grade, trailblazers, excuse me. Sixth grade are the Trailblazers, seventh grade is our Explorers, and eighth grade is our Academy of Innovators. This portrait of a graduate is separated by those academies. So as these cohorts matriculate up through this transformation, they're going to experience this entire portrait of a graduate in chunks, in manageable chunks. So every sixth grade Trailblazer, Academy of Trailblazer, is going to focus on the habits of mind, those strong habits of mind: persistence, grit, flexibility, strategic thinker, self-confident, self-directed, and creative. The seventh grade Academy of Explorers will focus on social skills and real world skills, developing those skills. So those academies will be focusing on those aspects of the portrait of a graduate. And then finally closing off the eighth grade year with those last two categories: contributing to society and building a plan for the future. Remember, this is all about them, the students, designing the next paths for their destiny. So these are the structures that all middle school college and career academies have. There's a campus principal, there are counselors, academy counselors, and then there's a team of teachers that works directly with their academy team. So every academy is broken down into teams or academies, and then there's an academy coach that facilitates or that works with each of the academies. Then we have obviously our families, and one of the best parts about this is our nonprofit partners. Now, Mrs. Schuler, I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to shade that for you for later. These are our academies. Every sixth grade academy across the city is the sixth grade Academy of Trailblazers, and every seventh grade academy is a seventh grade Academy of Explorers, and then every eighth grade class is part of the eighth grade Academy of Innovators across the district. Now, a lot of our schools have put an interesting and a different flair or individualization to their academies, but every sixth grade Academy of the Trailblazers is their name. This is kind of how we thought about shaping these experiences through these academies. Remember, this transformation started with our first sixth grade. So this year, all of our sixth grade academies are now functioning as an academy. As these sixth graders move up next year, they will be in the Academy of Explorers, and we will have the sixth grade Academy of Trailblazers, and then we will have the sixth grade Academy of Explorers. And then the next year, as this current sixth grade class moves up to the eighth grade, they will then be the first class to join the eighth grade Academy of Innovators. This is kind of the breakdown for how we envision these cohort of students going through this transformation. As sixth graders, we're asking them, or we're preparing them to develop their student voice through a community awareness. In the seventh grade, a little bit more student agency through community engagement. They're going to learn a whole lot more about not just their community in the immediate looking outside their front door, but their community as a whole. And then the last one is the Academy of Eighth Graders. This is when we're challenging students to be leaders and to solve practical problems in their community and around their community based on these last 2 years of work. So these first 2 years of work, finding out their awareness, and then being really engaged in something that they are passionate about. And as they become passionate about these things, then they become leaders in their community to solve a real and relevant practice or problem in their community. That problem of practice, you'll see that a little bit later, really is going to drive how students really build their passion that will help them identify what it is they want to do when they get to high school and where they want to go to high school. And so the guaranteed experiences, we talked a little bit about that. This is built on the high school. These are some of the guaranteed experiences. Mrs. Schuler, I'm not going to talk about this a lot because Mrs. Schuler and Mrs. Winter are going to talk about these in depth a little bit, but every sixth grade Academy student will have a nonprofit discovery opportunity. That is that they're able to explore and see what's out there, to discover things that they hadn't seen before that were in their community, all through these nonprofit lenses. Same thing with seventh grade. They're going to be a little bit more engaged in specific areas based on themes that they've selected. And then this eighth grade, this is my favorite. This Change Maker Challenge is when eighth graders get to decide what is the thing that they want to change. What is the problem that they'd like to attack as an 8th grade student. And then they build some kind of a presentation of learning around as they work with their nonprofit partners to be able to solve the problem that they've identified. That's the part that I'm really excited about. So when we think about our 6th graders, and some of you are already at the end of this slide, as we came back from the pandemic, we were focusing on social emotional learning. However, most of you don't know Mrs. Teka's background, but Mrs. Teka has been screaming that we have to make sure that our middle school students know and are able to work through these levels and these standards of social emotional learning. So we were focusing on social emotional learning prior to coming back from the pandemic. It was a huge cornerstone of this transformation. Everything that we've set out to do for this transformation, we have done. You'll see that in the next slide. Social emotional learning is a significant part of that. Our students have to be able to see, to regulate, and identify where they are within all of these other social settings, especially when we had them going into the community and working with community partners. This social emotional learning is significant, especially as we prepare them to move up to the high school and they begin to make those very important decisions in the 9th and the 10th grade, especially when we look at the structures of the academies. And this is a video that does a much better job of explaining and breaking these things down than I did. I'm going to let Mrs. Teka play it for you.
I don't think we can hear volume. This is Megan.
Education differently at
Oh,
Akron.
now we can.
In 2018, our high schools transitioned to the College and Career Academies of Akron. Students have benefited from smaller learning communities, academic instruction through the theme of their pathway, and support from a broad range of business partners. In the academies, students explore potential careers, tour colleges and universities, and receive valuable hands-on experiences to help develop their technical and professional skills. The results of our efforts have been noticeable. We have seen improvements in academic achievement, discipline, and graduation rates. And now, with the help of local, regional, and national organizations, we have collaborated to transform teaching and learning in our middle schools, linking elementary school to middle school and creating a bridge to high school. The middle school, college, and career academies will provide students with engaging and thematic learning opportunities at each grade level. Students will be challenged to learn about their communities through engagements with nonprofit and philanthropic partners. They will work in teams grouped by grade level to research community-based problems and offer solutions to those problems by engaging in service learning opportunities. Through these experiences, students will also learn about potential careers, increase their professional and social skills, and begin to learn about their aptitudes and interests to help them choose a pathway in high school. Students will also develop individual plans, including the opportunity to take higher level classes and earn high school credit while in middle school. That sets the stage for earning college credit while in high school. No matter what type of plan a student may develop, all middle school students will discover ways to become better learners, classmates, family members, and community leaders. Students will have a solid foundation to enter high school with the necessary skills and competencies to take advantage of everything high school has to offer. To find out more or to get involved, visit akronschools.com and click on College and Career Academies.
One of my favorite parts about that is the learners part. I love the idea of focusing on students as learners, because learning is more about focusing on what the student needs to know so that the student can get to where he or she wants to get. It's one of my favorite parts. Just to revisit the beginning part of that, remember there's 3 strands that we'll be focusing on, and I'm going to talk through a little bit of those strands right now. Those 3 strands are transforming teaching and learning, transforming the student experience, and then transforming the community. I am not going to talk about that. I'm going to leave that to Mrs. Shulam Winter. I'm going to talk about those first two. So when we think about right now, as we talk about the implementation or the transformation of the middle school into college and career academies, so far for this first semester, these are the things that we've done with our academy teams. Our academy teams have worked through unpacking their social emotional standards. We've purchased a curriculum to help facilitate some of those new social emotional learning opportunities for those students. And every single student is working through some culturally responsive practices with all of their teachers. That's every middle school in the district. Now, our sixth grade Academy of Trailblazers specifically have gone through effective team training. That's one of the first trainings that they go through. This is where they learn how to be in an academy. What does it mean to be a trailblazer? What does it mean to be an explorer? Teachers, and how are they going to use these structures and these frameworks to work for and with students? For the instructional transformation, AVID, many of you probably already know about AVID. AVID for us is a huge access strategy. It is one of the biggest steps that we have to supporting students and to getting to that rigorous college readiness mark. Every one of our sixth grade buildings has an AVID elective. Next year, we'll have another AVID elective. The AVID elective starts in the sixth grade, and that AVID elective will follow students from the sixth grade to the seventh grade and to the eighth grade, and then it will hand them off as ninth graders to our AVID ninth grade classes, and they'll loop back around and pick up another sixth grade elective. And then the last thing is the IBL design challenge. IBL is inquiry-based learning. So if you're wondering how we get to the design challenges and how do we get to the change maker challenge, it is focusing on transforming learning through inquiry-based learning. Basically, students are the center of the learning. They get to drive the show. There is not a end product that teachers are going for. They're allowing for students to build their experiences based on what they see. An example of that is this year we partnered with the Akron Zoo, and they rolled out 5 different challenges for our sixth graders to participate in. And it ranged from what to do with some of the land they have around the zoo, all the way up to they have golf carts and they're trying to get to cleaner energy, and they were asking students to redesign golf carts. It's a little bit of a competition, so students get to work around, research their problems, identify the solution that they want to present, and then they present through a presentation of learning to the zoo what it is that they picked, what problem they chose, and how they solved that problem. Next year, we're targeting biomimicry for our seventh grade Academy of Explorers. I'm really excited about introducing some biomimicry to our middle school students. It's a great opportunity to really transform learning and put students in front of learning. And I think that is all of my slides. I'm going to hand it over to, is it Mrs. Winter or Mrs. Schuler? Mrs. Winter.
Do you
All right,
want
Mrs. Winter, it's up to you.
Larry, why don't we just do the chat questions and then
Oh,
we'll turn it over
okay.
to Beth, if that's okay.
Fine.
So the first question that I see is, question was, do you have a portrait of a graduate visual with a girl? We do not. We kind of made it asexual. And if you see in the elementary one, they have a young boy and a young girl in there, but we just used one at the secondary level, that portrait of a graduate. The second question, are you using CTSO activities to enhance the community awareness, engagement, and action portions of the academies? I'll take that, Larry, just from the career tech lens. Yes, we absolutely are. Our students are participating in all of our CTSOs, and we are bringing those down to middle school as well to kind of really get that started early and often for our middle school students. Next question, Larry, did you start AVID as a part of the middle school transformation, or was AVID already a part of your middle schools?
AVID is part of our transformation. It's part of our high schools. We realized that the AVID is, I'm speaking now in my role as a Firestone principal, we brought AVID in a few years ago. As we begin to ramp up our emphasis on college readiness, college and career readiness, what we know and what Mrs. Tucker will tell you is that whether or not you're going career-based or college, there's a set of learning skills that we expect for all students to have. Avid has been a huge access to the development of those skills. So we've had some pretty good success at the high school, and we wanted to get students on board with developing these skills before they get to high school, because we think that it will only increase our college readiness access and our career readiness preparedness. I'm sorry.
Perfect. The next question, Beth, I think I'll throw this one to you. Do you have the data available on the graduation rate increase and where students go post-graduation compared to other school districts?
We certainly do have our own data. I would imagine that would actually go to my counterpart who tracks that data. But yes, we look at that data on a routine basis and report it to our partners annually.
Great. The next question, how many hours a day do the students participate in the academy? Larry, you want to answer that one?
Well, their academy, they spend all day in the academy. So they have a 6th grade, 7th grade, and an 8th grade academy class. So a 6th grade seminar, Academy Seminar 101 and Academy Seminar 201 in the 8th grade. But every one of their core content teachers is part of the academy team. So they spend their entire day with their academy teachers, and those teachers build some supports, behavioral and academic supports around the students to be able to cocoon them with strategies to improve and get them across the success finish line.
Perfect. Same thing for high school. They spend all day in their academy. Daniel asked, are your CTE courses consistent across all of your middle schools? Yes, they are. We actually have Project Lead the Way engineering courses, Project Lead the Way computer science courses, as well as academy prep courses, and they're consistent across all of our middle schools. One question, Beth, you threw out, you said, the question was also asked, how are you handling students with disabilities, including those with high support needs? Do you want me to answer that, Beth? Or are you comfortable?
I was monitoring earlier, so I just wanted to post it so it wasn't lost.
Okay.
But yes, when in our district, all means all. So all of our students are part of the academies. They all choose, all of our students have a pathway, and they have they have the opportunity to have all the same experiences as other students with the right supports in place. So we have support people that go with them, and then also work to make sure that the experience is appropriate for that student.
The other question was about monitoring and evidence, right? So making sure that we're ensuring, so we're progress monitoring outcomes for students. That's part of, the Ford Next Generation Learning Community. We actually have a steering committee, and Beth's going to speak to that in the next section. And that is the accountability piece to this. Our community designed the outcomes that the college and career academies were going to monitor and report out annually. So we monitor everything from graduation rates, attendance rates, credits earned, college going, employment going. We track all of that based on what the community said was going to measure success for us. The same thing happened in middle school. The middle school community teams decided what we were going to measure for their effectiveness. So that gets reported 3 times a year to our steering committee. I don't want to cut Beth and Darlene short. I think if there's any other major questions, Beth, that you saw that we want to make sure we come back to, if we have time at the end, how about we come back to this chat? Sound okay?
Absolutely, from my standpoint, sure.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to turn it over to you, Beth.
Okay, so welcome everybody, or thank you for joining us today. So the business engagement structure is an incredibly important piece of this transformation. And I can tell you that I came from the business sector, and just saying that Akron has always had a reputation for being very collaborative. I think our Ford coach, Scott Palmer, has called us freakishly connected in a very complimentary way. He said that. But the idea is our community has always worked very hard to work together and to help one another. So when we started this transformation, the superintendent at the time Dr. James pulled together a key group of partners that are on this document that you see on your screen to help develop this. He had seen information about the transformation in Nashville and thought this might be a good fit for us. But the group that you're looking at this document, so Connexus NEO is an area nonprofit that looks at employment gaps, trying to make sure we get the right talent to the right employers and vice versa. The Greater Akron Chamber, I'm sure we all know what chamber organizations are, bringing those business people together. Summit Education Initiative looks at education gaps and working with partners to address those persistent problems in education. United Way came on board as our partner broker. So because of the relationships they already had with the business community, helping us to align, to gain partners and align them with our pathways. The Akron Community Foundation, we'll hear from Darlene in just a couple of minutes, but they are the newest member to this group because of their relationships with the nonprofit community and how important the nonprofits are to this middle school endeavor. Then, of course, the schools, but then the GAR Foundation, which is one of our local funders, and of course, Ford Next Generation Learning. So this is that key group of partners that started at the very beginning to strategize and look at how we could involve the community in this and all the pieces, parts that go along with this. From that, we developed what you'll see on the next screen. So one of the things that's so important to note is this, when we talk about our partners, they're not just coming into doing a guest speaking and leaving. They are involved in our schools. They are involved with our teachers and our students and the work that we're doing to help make sure we are bringing students the right experiences that help prepare them for the job market. So this, we have a very similar looking document to the one you see here for high schools. And of course, it's worked very well and we have recreated it for the middle schools. Rachel, if you'll go to the next slide, I'm going to start from the bottom up because we will have a middle school advisory board at each school. And that group looks at those activities, the engagements going on at the middle school. So what types of things should we be providing? When we talk about that Changemaker Challenge or that service learning or that nonprofit discovery, what should our students be doing? What are good activities that would be involved there? What other partners do we need and who's in my network that maybe I can bring to the table? They look at all of those specifically at their school. And as you can see from the list there, developing inquiry-based learning units and so on, but they are very focused at their school for all 3 grades. Now, in fairness, that's our dream. We haven't started them yet. We're going to be implementing them in the next year, but this is the plan for our advisory boards. I expect them to mimic what happens at the high school level, which means they meet 3 times a year. Some meet 4, but it's not a big lift for our partners. And while I say that, it is run by an academy coach with a co-host, which is a business partner. Partners are there, teachers are there, counselors are there, students and parents. So again, we're bringing everybody to the table with their own perspective and expertise to help move this forward. So Rachel, if you would please go to the next one. The Nonprofit Partnership Council, this is a really interesting idea. So when we have all these experiences happening at the high schools, one of the key words for us is equity. This Nonprofit Partnership Council would take a look at data from across the board, all the high schools, looking at the types of experiences being offered, the partners that they have, so that we make sure there's equity across the board. At the high school level, they're looking at, gosh, you have small partners, large partners, but this school only seems to have small. Why is that? What do we need to do to bring in different partners so that we have that equity, not only in types of partners, but types of experiences? So that's really important that we get their advice, that overall look that's across the district. From there, we go to the CEO Champion Group. So this group is also, we have yet to create this one. We again know what it will be. These are, per the name, the CEOs, the highest level of in any given organization, whether it's a business or a nonprofit, but they are our public champions. They're the ones that are out advocating for us and talking about the successes we've had and the work that we're doing, helping people to understand the role we're playing in the community and the role the community is playing in our schools, because we're all working together to develop that workforce pipeline and a successful community. So then finally, everything hinges around the steering committee. So these are all entitled, you'll notice, engagement and oversight. The work that we do, we are beholden to the community. It is our responsibility to report to the community that this is what we've achieved, this is what we said we were going to do, this is what we've done, this is what we've accomplished, this is where we need your help. So if you look at this, we have a master plan for each of for high school and middle school, and we're of course working on the elementary. They look at our data. Are the academies healthy? Are there things that we're missing, things that we need to do, or are we bubbling along as we need to be? They will also work kind of in conjunction with the advisory council and the advisory boards to just share that information back and forth, and then they would call on that CEO champion group if needed. But again, all of these elements work together because we're all part of the success of this College and Career Academy transformation. So each of these elements is incredibly important for us. So with that, I will turn it over to Darlene with the Akron Community Foundation.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to share with you on how we select the nonprofit organizations that work with our students. Rachel, if you can go to the next slide. So we developed in September a student interest survey that all middle school students would complete. In that interest survey, the question was asked, if you could change the world, what would that action be? And then based off that first part of the question, the second part of the question was, based on your answer, what interest do you have in supporting that action you would take? So themes came out of that interest survey. So some students said animal protection, civil liberties and rights, community involvement, as well as homelessness. So we took that information, Akron Community Foundation, where my office is located, I was provided a list of probably over 300 different nonprofit organizations, in addition to a list of 16 that the Vice President of Community Involvement shared with me in order to contact those organizations. And so based off of that, I used that information to contact those nonprofit organizations and to develop that relationship that will be established between our middle schools. Questions?
So just to add, to kind of go deeper into what Beth and Darlene shared, the intention was to kind of replicate a system that worked really well for us at the high school level, which was a non-school person was representing the College and Career Academies to broker partnerships between businesses and schools. And so for high schools, our United Way actually stepped up and hired a full-time person whose sole responsibility is to connect business partnerships to our high schools. Currently, we have, Beth, I'm going to say over 275 business partnerships at the high school level. And then because that system worked so well for us, the Akron Community Foundation stepped up and said, hey, we would like to be the convening organization at the middle school level, and we'll hire a full-time person that can go out to all of the nonprofits in the area and connect those to your middle schools. So Darlene is that person for us. We're really grateful to have Darlene on our team. She's just, I think Darlene was hired this July. And she's been digging into the data and connecting to our middle school partnerships. And so at sixth grade, our goal is to have at least 3 or 4 nonprofit partners for every sixth grade academy in a really short amount of time, because we're going to pull off this sixth grade experience this spring. So Darlene's working fast and furious to get our nonprofits connected to each of our middle schools. So we appreciate having Darlene on our team. I'm going to go to the chat. There's like 8 questions in the chat, and I'm assuming that I'll read them if that's okay. And see if there's some really good comments. I'm going to throw this one, Larry, to you from Daniel. How are teachers prepared to use IBL successfully? It is a major shift from traditional education. Amen, Daniel. Dan, what are you going to say, Larry, to that?
Yeah, it's a significant shift. I just touched on this answer to Daniel in the chat. It's a slow process. So it's before we immerse them, the teachers, in the language of IBL and PBL, because there's a process that the teachers have to go through. Now, when I say process, I don't mean sequence, right? IBL is not do this and then do this and do this. It starts with the mindset of a design thinker. And I wasn't going to bring this up because it wasn't part of the process, but design thinking for teachers is significant. It's enormously important for teachers to be able to think creatively around learning opportunities for students. It starts there. And then we walk them through the frustrating process of learning through inquiry. Once teachers realize that they learn through inquiry every day, then it's a difficult process to break how they've already been going through education. Remember, education is what we do to students. Learning is what students do for themselves. So with that in mind, it's a slow process to re-engineer how teachers think about learning opportunities for students, and then provide them with the opportunities, the skill, and the feedback to be able to think learning through the lenses of first problem-based learning and then inquiry-based learning. Both have a framework that is similar, but there's a couple things that are essential in those components. It starts with the question, there's research involved, and then there's a presentation of learning. This is what I decided to do, this is what I did, and then you reflect. Somebody tell the professionals tell you what worked, what didn't work, can you move forward with this or not? And then there's feedback and the students think about it. That feedback is where students actually begin to learn. So it's a process that we're kind of muddling through because it's really not very clean process. It's messy, and there's a couple things that are sticky that teachers get really frustrated about, but there's a couple things that teachers really enjoy.
Awesome. There was a question about adding all those new people sounds expensive. How did you rethink HR in order to afford these support personnel? So I'll take that question if that's okay, really quickly. What we really did is repurpose a lot of positions. I will tell you that we had, we obviously we know that we can't afford to build brand new positions for every single thing you need to sustain this work, but we did repurpose quite a few positions. So like our academy principals were our assistant principals, right? They had a new role. Some of them actually had to in high school had to re-interview to be selected as an academy principal. Our Darlene Schuler from Akron Community Foundation and United Way personnel, we don't fund those. Our community partners actually fund those. We've repurposed some of our CTE staff to become academy coaches. It's really just trying to navigate what your needs are, what your positions are, and how you can repurpose as much of that as possible. I know we're getting really close to ending our session. I don't want to take any more time from the Ford group nor the ACTE group. But Cheryl, did you want to reference the how to become involved with the Ford NGL through ACTE?
Thank you. Actually, Megan, I think you were going to do that, so I will leave that for you. Is that correct, Megan, or do you want me to?
Yeah, that's fine. We can all reference it, but I did have a note in here that if you are a member of ACT in the Career Academy section from NRS, we do have these monthly chats. And on ACT on powerful partnerships, and you'll receive more information just by joining that section. And the first one, I believe, they are getting ready to schedule for the new year. So we hope you will consider joining that section, and then you'll receive more information. If you're already part of that section, then you should receive the information to join those chats. Did I do an adequate job? I'm not part of those details. So
well, thank you. Yes, actually, just as a slight overview, Ford Next Generation Learning has been working with ACTE to hopefully build out their Career Academy section to a division, which will, I think, broaden this model. And of course, as CTE folks, you know how important CTE is to students' academic and learning and engagement. And we really, love the Career Academy model because it allows students, all students, to be engaged in this really important work. So we are hosting regular monthly sessions, and we'll be looking to build out an advisory council around that shortly. So if you're interested at all, just go sign up for that
Thanks,
Career Academy
Cheryl.
section.
Yeah, we are really excited about building that section. So we appreciate you going over those details, and we hope everyone on this call will join. And with that, I just want to close the event today by thanking everyone, for thanking Ford NGL, especially for your amazing partnership. Clearly, we've gone over what work you're doing for CTE on this call, and then about helping build our section to a division, and all the work you are doing to move CTE forward. We are eternally grateful for the partnership with you all, and for your efforts today. It was just for all the panelists on here, and lastly for all our attendees that were able to join. We are just very grateful, and this will be posted on our website. So yeah, if you want to share it with anybody, we will have the recording up there in the next day or so. So thanks everyone for all the information and for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, panelists.